Okay, we are live now. So, Saksham, can you hear me? I'm making you co-host to allow people to get in when I'm speaking. Yeah, can you hear me, Saksham?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So just let me just do that. You are co-host, so you may allow people get in. Okay. We start. Warm greetings. Welcome to another session of Friday Waters Book Reading Club. Today we are going to discuss the book River Rejuvenation and River Rights, Evolving Debates in India. The idea of Friday Waters is to wet the Fridays with fun and yet get fruitful content for the better understanding about the water matters in different possible ways. Besides book reading club, we have at Friday Waters Water Talkies, Thesis Club, Water Arts, and Meet a Maestro. The focus of book reading club session is to bring author and authors who have written books, novels, comics, etc. on the water matters, and in order to discuss with them the making of the manuscript and the issues covered in that manuscript. Besides bringing interest in the water conversation, the session will also try to increase the outreach of the manuscript in the water networks and in society at large. This is Mansi Bhargav from the House of W4W, and I'm also the host for today. Today, we shall discuss the river rejuvenation and river rights, evolving debates in India. And to do the honor, we have Dr. Philip Kulet and Dr. Ruchi Shri, who are also the book editors, as our speakers today. The book published in Routledge in 2026, so I must say that it is right hot from the oven. We also have the privilege to have some of the chapter authors with us. I will invite them as their chapters arrive, but right now, warm welcome to all of you, and especially to Philip and Ruchi to bring us all together here and give us a reason to celebrate one another nice publication. Philip Kulet is a professor of international and environmental law at SOAS, University of London, a visiting professor at the National Law University, Delhi, and professor in residence at the National Law University, Meghalaya, Shillong. His work focuses on law and policy related to water and sanitation, as well as law and policy related to environment, natural resources, climate change, development, justice, and socio-economic rights. I will keep it short here because we would like to have the discussion on the book itself. So welcome, Philip, once again. Dr. Ruchi Shri pursued her MA, MPhil, and PhD from the Center for Political Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU, as we fondly call it, New Delhi. From 2012 to 2019, she taught at Janki Devi Memorial College, and she's currently teaching at University Department of Political Science at Tilka Majhi, Bhagalpur University, Bihar. She is also doing her research, and she was also I think she is a research fellow at SOAS, University of London, and she worked on fostering ecocentric community-led river restoration and conservation in Ganga Basin, supported by the British Academy. Again, keeping it short, I will post their biographies in the chat box once they start talking. Thank you so much, Ruchi, and both of you, welcome back to our show. This is a comeback for many of our speakers, chapter authors who are also here. Professor Venkatesh Datta, Eklavya Prasad, they are coming back to our session, but we also have Rahul Yaduka as our new speaker, I will say future speaker, Loveleen Bhular as future speaker, and more. I think KJ Joy sir and Sachin Tiwale will join as chapter speakers. Just to get started with, I will also give the background of the book. As I said, it is fresh from the oven from Routledge. I will share the link of the book as well for you to see if you would like to buy or not. The book is 240 pages with 11 illustrations, 7 tables, of course written in English, but I learned that it is now also available in Indian publishing house of the Routledge. It's a book with 4 sections with 11 chapters in total. 20 authors have written the book, including foreword by Usha Ramanathan and editors Philip Collett and Ruchi Shri. So I invite both Philip and Ruchi to give the opening remarks on the idea of the book. What, when, and how? How did you really start cooking about this book? Let me start with Philip. Over to you, Philip. Yeah, please unmute yourself, Philip.
Sorry, I mean,
Your voice is breaking, huh?
I missed you because I connected, so I'll let Ruchi start. I don't know what I was asked.
Do you hear me, Philip? I think there's a network issue at your end. Maybe Ruchi, I take you and I handle him outside.
I think,
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
he suggested that I should speak for this
Yeah,
one.
okay.
So, this project basically it started as a fellowship, so British Academy Leverhulme Fellowship that we had from 2021 to 23. As you mentioned, the topic fostering ecocentric community-led river restoration and conservation. So that project only eventually led to this book. And basically, this was a 2 years long project. So during that period, Philip thrice came to Bhagalpur. So we started with one small river, which was Champa Nala, which was a river at some point. And since we got to know that there were many cases of that kind, that numerous rivers have now turned into nalas, and we were coming across many news of that kind. So what we did is that we organized a workshop in Bhagalpur in which we had the fishing community and also the local NGOs, etc. And later on, we also conducted 2 workshops in Delhi. So the second workshop in Delhi was actually an authors meet. So it actually started, from one workshop, which was the local one. Then the second workshop, we eventually started looking for the authors. And since many people were friends in that group, which I call Water Family. So basically, you can say, be it Eklavya or Venkatesh. So these were the people to whom we started talking that this is how we are planning the book, and it started taking shape in that way. So I would like to say this is how it eventually led to a book. So there are 3 things you have asked. So what, when, and how. So now it is 5 years, 2021 to 26. So it was a 5 year plan, you can say, and we are so happy that we have the book with us. So we actually conducted extensive field works, I would like to say. And also when I will talk about my own chapter, then I'll tell you how ethnography was involved. And since me and Philip come from 2 different backgrounds, he is from law and I'm from political science. So anyway, we had this interdisciplinary kind of approach, and all the people whom we had as authors, they also come from different backgrounds. So that way also it was a very interesting journey to do it as a book thing.
Nice. So, Philip, can you hear me now? And maybe I would like to check if you are audible to us. Yeah.
Yeah,
Philip.
now
Yeah.
hopefully
Now
you can
you're
hear now.
better.
I've connected from my phone. Hopefully that works better.
Yeah, you are audible and it's better. So, river rights, framing, recognition, and beyond. How do you put it to all of us?
Fine. So I guess there have been debates for the past 15, 20 years on different things. One is moving from an anthropocentric to an ecocentric perspective, which is at the center of what we're talking about here. But there is a lot more than that. It's also about rethinking the way in which we understand development, or the central role of development in terms of environmental policy, and specifically water law and policy. It's also in terms of rethinking the place of regulation, in terms of how far different levels of regulation, different engagements of community, riverine communities, government, international institutions come together or don't come together in terms of ensuring that the rivers are not just used, which is what's been the case for many decades, but also protected. And one of the things being to try and reverse the perspective, particularly from water law, which has been to essentially see how to allocate available water to different users rather than first think about how to protect the water, the watershed, and the broader environment around it. Fine, I'll stop at this for now.
Nice. Okay. Maybe we go to, we are already talking about the first part of the book, and Ruchi, we had a good discussion just few weeks ago with you, Eklavya, around and talking about the importance of small rivers. And you have put it as part 1 of the book. How do you place this in the context of the book you are talking about? Ruchi?
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute. So basically, this research, I would like to say, since I had written 3 blogs on Champa, and in the beginning, when I had come to Bhagalpur in 2019, then this newspaper called Dainik Jagran, so it was conducting a month-long series on Champa Nala, that how a Nala is like being treated here. So I started covering it up, and in fact, when I thought of writing this as a book chapter, then this chapter involves, we call it multi-level lessons from Champa. Why am I calling it multi-level lessons? Is basically at one level, I'm talking about a philosophical aspect, that whether rivers are commons or rivers are property of state, or whether river could be treated as a commodity, because these are the 3 perspectives on water which are in conflict with each other, and we can see that conflict in case of rivers also. So that was one thing. Then I was also talking about the policies, that there are policies made by the center and the state, and how do they work at the ground level. So for instance, Jal Jeevan Haryali and Har Ghar Nal Jal, all these kinds of things, how are they operating at the ground level? That's why I decided to do an ethnographic study. So basically, keeping Champa Nala in the center, I picked up 2 villages. Their names are Biharipur and Dildarpur. And I visited those 2 villages at 3 points, like pre-monsoon, during monsoon, and post-monsoon, in order to see the people's lives around the rivers. What is the notion of everydayness around rivers? So this was also something that I tried to do. So what I mentioned, that 3 levels. So philosophical is 1, policy level is 2, and third is the everydayness around rivers. So this was how I planned that we need to look at small rivers. So that's one. And other than my own chapter, because Eklavya chapter also looks at one river, which is about an anonymous kind of river. So basically, there are many small rivers which we are not knowing about. Sometimes we don't even know their names. And along with Champa, I also got to know about some other rivers in the nearby area. For example, there is a river called Nada River or Andhari River. So during this research, I learned that not just Champa, but there are many other small rivers also which are in danger. So these are all are my findings. And later on,
Nice.
I'll talk more
Yeah.
about it.
So the way you both put up like the framing the debates, and also you actually make a kind of a push to rethink the way we look at rivers, their rights, and especially how they should be recognized or they are not recognized in that matter. We can move to the part 2 of it, and I just saw that Professor Sujit Kunan is also here. So welcome to the show again, and it's also welcome back for you to Wednesdays for Water. And Sujit, if you are hearing me, I suppose so, because I see you here. So you have a chapter actually on river rejuvenation and law. And I recall the session which we had with you was also about river rejuvenations and looking at the legal and policy aspect of it. Would you like to share some insights from the chapter so that we can also enlighten ourselves how things are, and all of us here? Over to you, Sujit. Yeah.
Thank you, Mansi. And yeah,
Your voice is quite feeble, so I need to check from my end as well.
okay,
Yeah.
am I audible?
You're audible, but it is quite low. So let me just check. Can you make it a little louder, please? Yeah.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes,
Yeah,
better.
better.
Thank you, Sujit. Good to see you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, same here. Thank you so much. And yeah, happy to be here back again. So specifically on that particular chapter which I contributed to this book on river rejuvenation and law. So just to summarize what I have done or what I have tried to do in this chapter is to look at rejuvenation, river rejuvenation as a concept. Basically to try and ask this question, like how river rejuvenation can be conceptualized. Not specifically from a legal point of view, but generally how it needs to be conceptualized, and why is that exercise important is mainly because river rejuvenation, as it is going on right now, it is mostly in a sort of a project mode. Funding focused. Sometimes it's called rejuvenation, sometimes it's called cleaning, and sometimes it's part of riverfront development, so on and so forth. So, but apart from this fragmented idea, how we can have a kind of a comprehensive concept, understanding of what do we mean by river rejuvenation, and that includes not only a river rejuvenation from a human-centric point of view, as how human beings think about river, but also I try to push it a little further by thinking how we can look at river rejuvenation from a river's point of view, or
Yeah.
from or to put it to use another word like an ecocentric point of view. So I try to look at from these two angles, and then the second part of the chapter where I draw upon the existing idea or the emerging idea of rights of nature and earth jurisprudence, some futuristic ideas, and try to see or try to think through how some of these ideas can be helpful in terms of effectuating these ideas into law or legal concepts or legal principles. So broadly, these are the two things that I try to do in this particular chapter. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sujit. Thank you so much. And I still remember your nice conceptual framework, the way you presented how we should actually perceive river and river rights in your previous sessions. We are going very quick in this conversation. Pardon me for that, because I'm so overwhelmed to see most of the chapter authors here. And that's, I think, the biggest success of not only the way you wrote the book, but also how you managed to keep all of you as a team together, which is a question which I'm going to ask both Ruchi and Philip towards the end. How was this mammoth task done? But let's continue with the book right now. And I know I'm not doing justice to going through a proper book review, but this is the least we can do at Friday Waters, to just have the book, taste of the book, not eat the whole book at this moment, but get a taste of it. Thanks, Sujit. Lovely, I see you are here, and you also touched upon the human health aspect of it, talking about the rights of the river, and you also had something related to, I will say, water epidemics in your paper in your chapter. Would you like to throw some light on it, please?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mansi. Thank you for this invitation. So I was a bit of a latecomer to this party, and Philippe and Ruchi were kind enough to involve me. And what I did was I'm doing some work on antimicrobial resistance. So I decided to look at the rights of rivers through that angle. So the title of my chapter is quite a heavy one. It's a more than human health approach to ensure the rights of rivers, the case of antibiotics in household waste. So just to kind of break it up into three parts, the first most important part for the book was the rights of rivers. And I focus in particular on one of the many rights that rivers ought to have, which is the right to be free from pollution. Not free from all pollution, but pollution that exceeds the assimilative capacity of a river, which is how law sometimes looks at, pollution in rivers. So that was the right of river element. The other main element of my paper was about antibiotics in household waste. And it's a recognition that in addition to all the other pollutants that are going into our rivers, one of the sources of river pollution is the discharge of antibiotics from households, whether it goes through the toilet in the form of liquid waste, or whether it goes into the dustbin in the form of solid waste, where we are just throwing unused, expired medicines and they just reach the river environment. Now, this leads to river pollution, but it also leads to what is known as antimicrobial resistance, which is the fact that microorganisms become resistant to antibiotics. So antibiotics stop working, and that means that there are negative health outcomes for people, for animals, and for the planet. So this was the second part. And what I was trying to do in this chapter was link it all to this idea in studies of antimicrobial resistance, which talk about something called the One Health approach. And the One Health approach is this idea that human health, animal health, and environmental health are interconnected. And just in the way that Sujit was just talking about sort of this anthropocentric, ecocentric sort of binary, the One Health approach has also been criticized for being very sort of anthropocentric. You know, we talk about animal health, we talk about environmental health, but we are framing everything through the lens of human health. And I tried to look at India as an example to study how a more than human health approach, so where humans are a part of the story, but you know, you're adopting this wider ecocentric approach where humans are seen as a part of the environment itself. And I'm trying to make the case for how adopting a more than human health approach will allow us to consider the impact of human antibiotic use on the river environment, and how by considering that impact, we can both prevent or control river pollution, but also not prevent, but control the emergence of antimicrobial resistance in the river environment, but also in the other natural environment surrounding the rivers. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Loveleen. And this is very rare that people are writing about water epidemics. And I have such a strong belief that if water epidemics can lead the water pollution discourse, I think the policymakers are more serious about taking cognizance of it, because we are really sitting in a very strange situation of pollution as one of the planetary boundaries, and water pollution is one of them. We go to the next session, next chapter, which is part of the part 2 of the book on regulatory dimensions, and we have the chapter 5 there. I'm just trying to check if Shruti Jain is there, or otherwise I will invite our editors to take charge of the chapter here. Shruti, if you are around, just give me a shout,
No,
please.
no,
No,
Shruti is not
she's not
around.
there.
She
So
was
I will
shifting her
invite you,
house.
Ruchi.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no problem. I will invite
Yeah.
you for this chapter, because one of my, I will say, favorite chapter, not to be discriminating about anything, but personally being so fond of, mapping water, Jal Satyagraha. And this chapter is about Chipko movement and an emphasis on how hydropower projects in Uttarakhand. Would you like to just share with us what Shruti tried to convey through her chapter? Ruchi.
Yeah. So basically, Shruti chapter is, even I liked it a lot reading this chapter while editing also, because Chipko is something from which we start knowing more about, environment when it comes to Indian context. And the kind of writing that Shruti has done, it is more, you can say, river centric, but also raising the larger discourse of environment. And she is tracing it from the time of Chipko, that what kind of promises were made during Chipko and how we could not, fulfill those promises. And now what we get to see is that numerous hydel power projects and things like that which are there in operation. So she has written about Joshimath region, and she has picked up two villages, Reni and Lata. These two villages in the Chamoli district, in order to tell us the story of the small rivers in that region, and how small rivers in those regions, like the mountainous region, they are also endangered. And basically what we are doing is that we are clubbing these two categories, which is conservation and development. And we are sometimes just doing things that as if, how are we going to balance between the two? But when we go and see the projects, like say, she has mentioned about Rishi Ganga power project, on the smaller Rishi Ganga, and the Povan Vishnugad project on Tholi Ganga. So these two cases she has picked up to tell us in detail that why we need to look at this issue, that, the kind of hydropower projects which are proposed in Uttarakhand, what are the after effects of such projects. So that way, it is a very interesting read, and I wish she was around to tell us. And she has taken a people's perspective to tell this story, and she has written about like she had conversation with the people there, and those who try to recall the time of Chipko and what all they were dreaming and how their dreams are shattered, and they are getting to see the ecological degradation in that region. So
Yeah.
that's all.
That's nice, because as we speak today, we know that local community of the Ken Betwa link are actually submerging themselves they are on a Jal Satyagraha. So I'm closely following their Jal Satyagraha, because this is a very important. And I remember just last year, people from Baldwani were also in in the Jal Satyagraha, and they were submerging themselves into water to protect not only their rights to the river, but also the rights of the river itself. I mean, I was so fascinated to look at the way the local community from Ken Betwa are really giving some powerful statements on why they are on Jal Satyagraha. And it's right now on when we talk about, and very well put, Ruchi, that since Chipko, we are really not seeing much change in the way the center or the policy looks at the rivers. I mean, we continue to have these satyagrahas, and we also continue to have those policies. But anyway, we'll keep it short here. And it's nice that the Shruti could also be represented by you. So thanks, Ruchi. We go to the part 3 of the book, and I know, Eklavya, you are here. You are such a sweetheart. You made it. Thank you so much. And I just saw that Sachin also made it from his fieldwork. You have a wonderful chapter, and we also discussed last month in March with Professor Dinesh Mishra. Also, they are talking about understanding the small and unknown rivers of Bihar. And I think this subject is close to you and Ruchi, very close to your heart, of course, Dinesh Mishra sir as well. And you have written it as a multi-author chapter, which is also the beauty of writing a complex system. Do you have more authors from the chapter today here? I'm just trying to look at it, but you may open the chapter understanding for all of us, and let me just check around. If there's anyone from chapter 6 here, please raise your digital hand and we'll get you in. Yeah, go ahead, Eklavya.
Thank you, Mansi. And at the outset, I would like to thank Philip and Ruchi for giving us this kind of a space in the book, because Make Pine Abhiyan has been actually raising this issue of small rivers since 2016. And there was a time that we had done a kind of counting of small rivers across North Bihar, and we stopped at about 148, knowing that there were far more smaller rivers trans boundary between Nepal and Bihar. Now, this chapter is extremely special because of the fact that we are talking about a river called Gehua. And this river is actually sandwiched between the embankments of the western embankments of Kosi and the eastern embankments of Kamla. And we also categorize this as one of the typologies that MPA has been working on. So despite constant waterlogging, annual waterlogging, flooding in this region, somehow this entire area, which stretches from Madhubani, Darbhanga, and Saharsa, has not been picked up. So therefore, this particular chapter is extremely special. And also the fact that, it has helped us to bring visibility of the small and unknown river. And
Yes.
this entire chapter was based on actual fieldwork. Earlier, we were trying to write about our experience of Paschim Champaran, but somehow it was not coming up the way Philip and Ruchi wanted it. So we actually went down to the field and gathered contextual information. And what we have done in this chapter is basically, first, that we have highlighted the need for documenting such rivers across North Bihar. The second is in terms of emphasizing the need for lived realities to be given adequate and legit spaces in all the discourses that are happening. Third, the hidden impacts need to be talked about And that is what we have brought on the table as far as the chapter is concerned. The fourth point is in terms of linking these small rivers with the larger river systems. The way we approach the larger river systems is that we just concentrate on that, and there is no importance or space given to the rivers that are feeding into these larger river systems. So that is also something that we brought on. And also the fact that we attempted to redefine or reframe the river rejuvenation aspect from a smaller river perspective. So in a nutshell, I would say this, and thank you again for this, for asking us to come and share our experiences. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Eklavya. And you put such a small point, but so deep, impactful, because naam hai to hum hai. In other words, if they exist on the paper, then at least they have a chance to exist in real time. And that's why documentation becomes so important. And unfortunately, what was written in Ved or Vedas as Nadi was in reference to the small drainage courses, which we now call as Nali. So for the journey from Nadi to Nali has been extremely painful, and it is so important. And we discussed in your session that in March as well, that what are the ways to start really documenting them and looking at them in a very different perspective. And it is so important. We always call them as small, but they have much deeper impact, because all the water people here, we know that the shallow water bodies are the richer ecosystems that we need for our own existence as well. Thanks, Eklavya. We move on to the next section of the part 3, which is transboundary rivers and flood management, where Eklavya also had his chapter. And I see that Rahul Yaduka is also here. And Rahul, I'm already booking you for one more session in June or July. So please be mentally prepared for it. You have a wonderful chapter on Koshi's flood management and looking from a river rights perspective. And I'm really looking forward to engaging with you today as well as in future. Over to you, Rahul.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mansi. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yeah, so first of all, it has been a really surprise that I was included in this book project, from Facebook to workshop in Bhagalpur. Then we met in CPR and then authors meet at IIC. So it has been a journey which has introduced me to people who are at the front row of research on water as of now. So yeah, it was a very amazing opportunity that Philip and Ruchi gave it to me. So talking about my chapter, I think the case of Kosi, which is my PhD area also, that presents a classical case where this river rights perspective can be engaged with to shed light on this case of Kosi also, and also draw some lessons about the rights of river framing itself. So as most of us know, that it's a very weird kind of river which has a tendency to migrate. It has a lot of sediment deposition. It has been a devastating cause for so many people in North Bihar, along with its nurturing tendency also. But the idea in this chapter was to see how flood management policies are inherently rooted in the imagination of the river itself. So it starts from the way we imagine the rivers, right? So that's where the anthropocentric perspective of the rivers and ecocentric perspective of the river diverge. And in this chapter, I have kept it very simple to show what is the present way of managing floods in the river Kosi, and going slightly backwards, how floods have been imagined by this technicist modernist paradigm, and how they look at the river, how they slice out a certain part of the whole body of the river itself, and they amend it to suit it to their engineering, right? But then I shed light on how it would have been different, hypothetically, had it been imagined not from the anthropocentric perspective, but from a river rights perspective, if Kosi would have certain rights which are defined in a certain way. Certain rights are there: right to flow, right to maintain its integrity, right to ecosystem services that it has to provide. So had it all been taken as not violable, had we respected those rights, so many things would not have happened. For instance, we could not have straitjacketed the river. We could not have constructed bridges and barrages in the way we have done right now. So all the socio-economic implications that were subsequently having a cascading effect on society So these would not have happened. And one important point also to see is that the binary that Loveleen also hinted towards, that actually that is questionable, anthropocentric and ecocentric. So that's where the case of Kosi also further pushes that argument, that is river's interest and community's interest antithetical to each other. So there is also the connection that not necessarily river's existence has a positive impact on life of the people. But again, towards the end, when I talk about the challenges, because Kosi is a weird river, as I said, or so many people say, because it is tough to control and serve human needs. When we talk about those kind of challenges, then you also have to talk about liabilities of the river, because it has a propensity to flood. It has been migrating, 150 plus kilometers in last 200 years. So we bracket that out. If we give rights to the river, we also have to talk about its duties and who is going to take responsibility of its actions. So in that context, Kosi is a very good example to engage with that part of liability. One important thing that further complicates the debate and enriches our understanding of rights of river framing itself is that generally we have this tendency of putting community as a homogeneous entity, that there is community, there is nature's right.
Yeah.
But in case of Kosi, we see that community itself is fragmented. It has heterogeneous interest. At times, it has antithetical interest of people outside embankment and people inside embankment. So in that whole complexity on the ground, how do we actually sort of materialize this idea of rights of river? So this is what I would broadly talk about in my chapter. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rahul. And we also know that soon we have to revise our transboundary agreement as well on Kosi with India and Nepal, if I am not mistaken. And when we talk about rivers transboundaries, we're also talking about exchange of civilization. And you rightly put in the way how we look at it from anthropocentric or ecocentric way. But as I repeat again, we are not doing justice to each chapter. Please bear with us, all of you. But we really want all of the authors to speak here and speak their heart in short. And we will try our best to amplify this work as much as we can. We move on to the section 4 on river rejuvenation, riverfront development and environmental flows, a topic which we are also carrying out in our Wednesdays for water session, a riverscape series where we are taking up different cities and talking about the rivers that pass through those cities. That it brings me to invite Professor Venkatesh Datta. And Venkatesh, before you speak for your chapter, I want to book a Wednesday for you on riverscape series of Lucknow, the Great Gomti, and its beautification on the Great Gomti. So please already decide a date in June and July. So I'm already seeing Rahul on one Friday and you on one Wednesday with someone from Lucknow. You talk about free-flowing rivers to the world urban infrastructure, and we have been talking about this when India is all set to have 150 river fronts. Venkatesh, you are one of the forefront, I will say, a person who is advocating against what's going on. Would you like to throw some light on your chapter, please? Because you really touch a very core of it on river's identity. Over to you, Venkatesh.
Thank you so much, Mansi, and thank you to Ruchi and Professor Philip and all the fellow panelists here. So, when this idea of this book came, I was quite happy that there is no such book on river rights per se, and this is the first attempt to compile the different thoughts together in a common thread. So I must congratulate Dr. Ruchi and Professor Philip for bringing out such a nice volume. So my chapter talks about how the landscape, the riverine landscape and the river terraces are being transformed into a very dead sort of ecosystem, concrete riparian corridor, where there is no life, there is no, the fluvial life, but the attempt is more to convert a small segment of river into an elite urban space. if you search Sabarmati on Google, you'll get Sabarmati riverfront. People think that Sabarmati means Sabarmati riverfront. If you search Gomti, you'll get Gomti riverfront. So even though the total length of the river Gomti or Sabarmati runs into hundreds and thousands of kilometers, but only just small, less than 0.01% of the total segment gets highlighted and given a very elite treatment by the urban planners. So I started documenting the whole idea and the genesis of this project, right from how the project was conceived by the Land Development Agency and how it was given to the irrigation department, and how without getting an EIA done, the planners, took the scape. Like if you have this area and township development project, then there is no EIA required. They go through this route, that this is an area and township development project, and therefore there is no environmental impact assessment required. Or this is the area is less than 30,000 square meters. So there are many logics given by the planners, and they escape the more planned impact assessment. But even though in some cases where impact assessments were done, it was done very loosely by the consultants. None of the EIAs looked into the environmental and morphometric aspects of the river and its ecosystems. So we examined how the loss of fluvial services occurred due to such a massive engineering-led river channelization project. I call it river channelization because the whole meandering nature of the river was converted into a straight channel, and the side ditches, connected wetlands, mosaic of habitats like ditches and shaded areas and forested terraces, they were all wiped out. And along with that, there was also wiping of the cultural identity or the historical landscape, historical architecture, or the ghat landscape was erased in one go. And the logic was given that we are doing sort of urban renewal project. So this sort of riverfront projects are going on a very massive sort of scale. For example, Yamuna and Agra and many riverfront projects are under pipeline. So I consider that this is not suited for a tropical country like India. Our rivers swell 10 times, 15 times during monsoon, so we need space, fluvial terrace, for sediments to spread, for waters to spread on its adjacent floodplain. So if you confine the channel to a narrow, walled sort of urban riverfront, so you invite flood, you invite disasters, you invite sediments to build up on the river bed. So river is also getting narrowed over the time period, and so ultimately you are killing the whole ecosystem. So through an empirical investigation, we documented, and I gave, I think, 10 points why riverfronts are not suited for India, right? Why it is more like a branding, real estate, urban development project, nothing to do with the river. River is just crying in the background. It looks good with a lot of lights. In the evening, people take a walk, and walkways are there. But ultimately, rivers are suffering. So we need a paradigm shift. We need to advocate for green riverfronts. So I have been talking about rivers make their own riverfronts, right? They make their own terraces. They make their own ecosystems, and there is a resilience of such ecosystem. There is a resilience of such fluvial ecosystems, and we threaten the natural resilience by such artificial ecosystem. Why do we threaten the natural resilience of such an active ecosystem? So this is a classical paradox, and I think if you go through the paper, you get more insights. So I don't want to go into detail due to paucity of time.
Yeah.
Please go through the chapter and give any feedback.
Thank you so much, Venkatesh. This is something which is bothering many of us as we speak today. The people from Hyderabad are really doing anything and everything possible. A lot of ecologist community, local people, and I am in constant touch with them. And we are trying to also organize Hyderabad Riverscape because Musi is going to go through the same fate as Sabarmati with nearly 1400 crore to be dumped into the Musi Nala. And I feel really sad that the way we are putting money into these rivers and the rest of the river is getting lost. Because you mentioned about Sabarmati, I also would like to tell all of you the moment you click Sabarmati River, you actually get up to 8 to 10 pages of Google search, only Sabarmati River front, and then comes Sabarmati River towards the end of the Google search. I wrote about this identity grabbing in another Routledge book as a chapter on, and I call it Clear Case of Water Grabbing Exercise. Thanks, Venkatesh. We move on to the next chapter. We are really taking a rapid fire session on this book review here, and which is nice that most of the chapter authors are here. We have Sachin Tiwale, and the chapter next is on writing on river rejuvenation, religious organizations and stakeholders of development with Sachin Tiwale and Sri Rupa Bhattacharya. Sachin, thank you so much, and thanks for joining from the field. I know you are with the students, but I'm sure you are also proud about joining here, and your students are also proud about you being there and joining us as well. Could you please throw some light on how you put the religious organizations and stakeholders into discussing about the river rejuvenation? Sachin.
Yeah, thank you, Ruchi, for this opportunity. I would like to also thank Philip and Ruchi and also Mansi for this opportunity and also the participant. In our chapter, we are critically examining the river rejuvenation as a concept and how it is being implemented. Since last few years, considering the uncertainty in precipitation and the scarcity of water in different parts of India, multiple organizations are doing multiple activities under the name of river rejuvenation. In our chapter, we are critically examining the two such projects. One is the Manjra River Rejuvenation, which is being done in Marathwada, which is in context of Latur to provide assured water for Latur. That was the objective. And another is the Kumudivati River Rejuvenation Project, which was implemented in context of Bangalore to provide to revive the river and provide the water to Bangalore. So these two projects both are in context of urban water supply. And here we are analyzing that how this river rejuvenation concept is phrased without actually analyzing what are the real problems of both respective river in Manjara as well as in case of Kumuduvati. And the activities such like the digging of a river in case of Manjara or activities such as typical watershed management activities were termed as river rejuvenation activities. Otherwise, what we understood as a river rejuvenation as that process where we try to identify the causes of which are damaging the water quality, quantity, and the biophysical aspects of the river, and would need to address those aspects so that we can revive the functions of a river and also functions of the river as an ecosystem. But instead, in case of Manjara, the digging of the river, widening of the river was framed as a river rejuvenation, which has nothing to do with river rejuvenation. And that was done the organizations like Art of Living, and the same organization was also involved in Kumudavati, where they did the watershed activities in the catchment with the assumption that with these activities, it will revive the river. And in this whole exercise, these organizations misuse this concept. And also along with the organization, other corporate entities and political entities were involved. And ultimately, they also celebrated this as a success of a river without telling what exactly such activities are going to do with the river, how the river is revived. The objective was to increase the river flow in the river without understanding the hydrology or the geohydrology of the region. And so, and ultimately, our chapter deals with all the details at how the local problems were selectively problematized to justify what those organizations were trying to do under the name of river rejuvenation. That's what we are trying to do, me and Sri Rupa, in this chapter.
Thank you so much, Sachin, and keep doing the good work. I keep following your work in LinkedIn, and it is so inspiring that you are so much putting your work through the data, and which makes it more, impressive as well as convincing that things there is something wrong going on in the way we are trying to put up the political economy and ecology of these water systems in place. So I feel like this book has a good combination of some qualitative and quantitative work, and that's a good marriage we can find in this book. We move on to the next chapter here, and I am assuming that Neha Bhadbhade and KJ Joy sir are not around, but I will invite Philip to please throw some light on the environmental flows as integral part of river rejuvenation, the case of Hasdev sub-basin Chhattisgarh. We know the people of Hasdev are really fighting their battle to save their river and the forest. Over to you, Philip, and please share some insights.
Okay, so the two authors have worked on environmental flows for a long time, so they brought it together in the context of this chapter, focusing on the starting point of the idea of wasted water as part of the engineering technocratic understanding of water as a starting point towards looking at rivers, dams, structures, rainwater harvesting structures. So the general point of the chapter is to force us to rethink the way in which we're understanding the technocratic hydraulic way of managing rivers to one that starts from the environmental dimension, focusing on the environmental flows to allow us to essentially put the river back at the center of the discourse. And then a lot of the chapter is about the specific case study. So it introduces us to very specific details on the Hasdeo, which tributary of the Mahanadi, allowing us a very specific view on a small river within a broader basin, and also the different multi-level aspects of the environmental flows that the authors engaged in.
Yeah, thank you so much. I belong to that region, as I'm a born Chhattisgarhi, and I feel so bad for the way the tribal communities, the forest communities are really not only sidelined, but brutal means are used to suppress their voices, and also their forest rights are taken away, the river rights are taken away. It really feels how we can stop this and how government and local communities can work together. I have no answers for it, but KJ Joy sir sends his greetings to all of us, and he is unable to join. So I would like to convey this at this moment because we talk about this chapter. Thanks, Philip. We reached the last chapter of the book, and we really did a marathon of all the chapters, which is hooray to all of us. The last chapter is by Seetu Tiwari, Manoj Singh, and Shweta Ramchandran, and it's about the rejuvenation of small rivers in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh and perspective from the field. Very much what, Ruchi, you have been talking also about in your work, extensive work you are doing. So please share some insights that you would like to that we know about this chapter. Go ahead.
So first of all, I would like to say that this chapter was a bit different in the way, like two journalists, Seetu Tiwari and Manoj Singh ji, they both are journalists and they have contributed their writing. So basically, we got some write-ups in Hindi, so we had to get it translated. So this chapter itself had a journey. At some point, we were like whether we will be able to take it further or not. But Philip was really enthusiastic. He said, no, this has that potential. It's coming from the field. We must have this chapter. So, and since Shweta Ramchandran, she got into this project and she also helped us quite a lot in shaping it as a chapter because two people have written in Hindi, then translation was involved. So that way, this chapter was in itself the journey it had. And it is basically having three rivers from Bihar. One is Dhanoti River, another is Barnar, and third river is Lakhandei. So some rivers of hope and some rivers of despair. So like that, how small rivers are facing difficulties or how they are being rejuvenated. What is the role of NGOs and things like that. So these three rivers from Bihar. So Bihar thing was written by C2, and the UP story is having like two river stories there, Syahi River and Ami River. So that part was done by Manoj Singh ji. So basically, again, as I mentioned, that these reports were in Hindi by them at different places. So we had to collaborate those things together, weaving them into it. So this chapter is very interesting because the kind of case studies and extensive case studies, because this chapter has voices from the field, because what people have told about their experiences, as in what happens when the river is no more there, how their everydayness is something that they have to compromise a lot more needs and things like that. So this was very interesting for us to include this chapter. And in fact, I had invited Shweta to join, but she is an LLM student. She had exam. That's why she couldn't join us. And here I would like to say two things which I missed otherwise, was that this book has cases from 7 different states. So that way, like there is an overlap, few things from Bihar, one the flood story, a small river like that. So Bihar, UP, Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and partly Gujarat, because Venkatesh has done Sabarmati riverfront thing in like comparative way. So that way, this book has, you can say, stories from all over India, and we try to include the case studies, and that makes this book pretty interesting. And another thing which I missed while talking to you about my own chapter is that I have used Riverhood framework, because that is something Joy sir and few other people, because Riverhood framework is a new thing, and that article was shared with me by Professor Datta. Venkatesh sir had shared with me, and I think now we got to think around Riverhood. As we talk about brotherhood, motherhood, we got to think about Riverhood. So in my chapter, I have argued that there are different local perceptions about rivers and how they tend to, compete with each other. And sometimes what happens is that people are not talking to each other. So I had mentioned about 5 groups. There is a nostalgia group which says that once upon a time it was so and so. Then there is another which talks about the nature culture interlinkages. Then there are people who are talking about conservation a lot. Then there are state officials who say that no, 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 we have to think about river in terms of, making policies, and state should have a say. And then there are river dependent local communities who talk about river in a different way. For them, it is about their everydayness. So I tried to argue that these 5 groups do not get to interact with each other. But if we will have something like Riverhood, then these 5 groups will have, they will come together and think about the river together. So this is what I wanted to mention, that way this book brings out this notion that we need to think about riverhood and rivers as commons. Thank you.
That's nice, Ruchi, because the 6th group I will add here into your discussion of 5 groups, and that's the dominant group, and that is the development group. Because the 5 groups are not together and not really trying, they are trying probably, but not able to form this collective and put up the narrative to the development group, which is, I think, the most powerful. It is, again, they are not dividing and ruling, but we need to find a way how can we become a collective and form a narrative that is more convincing, not only to the development group, but also the people at large. And that we are thinking from different perspective of the river, very much as you mentioned in the Riverhood framework. That is actually bringing us close to the conversations here, but I would like to open the floor for 1 or 2 quick questions from anyone who would like to jump into this conversation or to speak to both our editors here. That will be very nice. Otherwise, I will also have my share of questions to them. Yeah. Anyone would like to jump in and add here who has not spoken and is part of the session? We highly appreciate your engagement. So while you are thinking, let me ask a very simple logistic question to both of you. And I had already informed that I am always curious, to be honest. I start such journeys of writing book together, and I leave it somewhere in between because I just cannot manage this humongous task. But I learned from you about these 4 workshops and how you stick together as a collective of authors or thinkers in this sense. How is the exercise of bringing the people together and what was it about? I mean, how did you take up this mammoth task? I mean, you had a fellowship for how long? 1 year, 2 years? Because you said it is spanned through 5 years.
So the fellowship was of 2 years, 2021 to 23. But
Hmm.
later on, the book thing took time because we had to revise our drafts. I think some 5 to 6 rounds we did the draft chapters.
Mhm.
And also, like, if we would like to say that first we had sent the entire manuscript to Orient Black Swan, but they kept it for quite some time. Then we decided we will reach out to some other publisher. So that was another thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned that the collective you formed is also of almost known collective, which also makes it kind of commitment on the compliance of the agreement you have come together to work on it. I experiment on collective action a lot using Elinor Ostrom's framework on the 7 rules of working together. So maybe it's a good idea to see how the 7 rules succeeded in bringing this book out. I see a small message from Divya Chopra. Are you intending to say something or ask something? I see a message from you. Yes. Okay. It's I have question. Okay, please go ahead. Divya, would you like to unmute yourself and speak because you have asked a question on?
I can read her question.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, gender, women perspective, no, we don't have a chapter. In the beginning, we were supposed to have a chapter, which we had a research assistant named Shalini Jha. And at some point, we had thought that maybe me and Shalini, we would have done this chapter. But since she had to leave the project in between, she got a job, and that's how we couldn't plan, I already had my own chapter. Then me and Philip, we were doing introduction. Now it wasn't possible to do a gender chapter. So that way, no, we don't have it. And maybe also because River, I don't know, when it comes to gender, we got to think little more. I think that's also something which is a new area. Maybe at some point I would like to think more about it in order to write. So no,
Yeah.
that's not there.
This is also a moment I must share that we are trying to cook something on gender and women for water. Ruchi, me, Anindita, and Rinan. So hopefully we try to start that preparation of food. I don't know when the food will be ready, but at least we are discussing about it. That brings me to actually a closing remark and question to both of you. I would like to start with Philip. Very easy questions. Now that we have gone through this book, I am also curious, and I ask this question from the point, I wish I had known one of you at least 5 years ago, that I could have contributed one chapter at least in this book. And just to also add to what Divya was saying and the way you responded, Ruchi, I think the best part about this book, which I liked about, is that most of the authors have actually focused on talking about the right of the river per se, not what we can appropriate as human civilization from it. And that is also something which I could figure out about the rethinking of it. Because the moment we think about river, we are often, and that's a policy and the development gang, the 6th group, Ruchi, the moment we look at these resources, the first reaction and the whole policy discourse is about how can we appropriate to its maximum. And this book is actually not talking about its appropriation. It is taking the side of the river, and in a way, it is trying to be the voice of the river. I must, if I may put it in that way, but I'm going to write a review of the book, so I'm also trying to correct myself. Philip, your closing remarks, and if there is something you would like to add here.
No, but so exactly, and that's what's been interesting, and that also explained the twin title of the book, is that the different authors have come to it from different perspectives, but okay, some of them speaking specifically of the rights of the river, fine, but not everyone speaking to it from a legal perspective, not necessarily everyone speaking to it from a rights perspective, and there's a lot of debate also as to whether the rights framework is the right framework to engage with these kind of issues to avoid replicating the problems we've had with appropriations through rights of the river, of the claims to the river itself and its resources. So definitely, that's been one of the things, and that's been one of the great things about the people brought together here. Okay, some some were known for many, many years before. Some were completely new, as Rahul mentioned. Some were known from different contexts, and some, as also some authors mentioned earlier, some were made to do things which were maybe not exactly what they were used to or what they were thinking of in terms of the topic. And that makes sense because everything that I guess all of us are trying to do here is largely new and largely evolving in terms of new discourses that will take shape over the next few years. And hopefully this book is only one of the efforts towards rethinking and re-understanding of things. Thank you for hosting us.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks. What's brewing right now, Philip, with you? What are you cooking these days in the science?
Cooking some more water.
Some more water. Okay.
So I don't know if it will boil up, but
okay. Any specific publication that you're doing for edited volume, please give a shout in the group, because there are always people who want to write and I am reached by them. So I can also help get some more people outside of your network as well. If there are anybody in the group here from the authors, from the participants who want to have some last word from their side, then I invite Ruchi also at the end to also do vote of thanks for all the chapter authors. Anybody would like to add something here? Okay, I don't see any digital hand or anything. This was such a wonderful session, to be honest. Power-packed, very insightful, and I will also say very emotional, because we don't hear often that. Honestly, just a small advice to both the editors. The first author of the book is River itself. So River, Philip, and Ruchi. So that is how I would like to place it. So Ruchi, closing remarks, and also it's nice if you do a vote of thanks for all the chapter authors.
Yeah, so I would just like to say that this book was, of course, like it was something, a product of, you can say, team spirit. And we also learned more about what is patience, hard work, these lessons, doing it as just values, and then you just try to get it, how you become part of it. And many friends like Professor Datta, I read his book, Water Conflicts and Resistance Issues and Challenges in South Asia, and I came across, he had referred to my work, and I was like, then I got in touch with him, and then he became part of this book project. So I think in this water journey, we get to know each other. And Joy sir, I have been knowing for a long time, and I met Philip through Joy sir. So it's been, you meet where you are destined to reach. And I think this book also that way has been a journey of togetherness, doing it as a team thing. So I'm very happy that we did it. And I would like to thank all the authors once again. I had not thought that it will be such a power-packed kind of, and I think 7 to 8 authors, they presented their own chapters. It's so enriching. I'm so happy that it happened. Thank you all, and thank you, Mansi, for inviting all of us and for making this happen.
Thank you so much, Ruchi. Yeah, thank you so much, Ruchi. And thanks all the authors who are still around. Venkatesh, Rahul, I can see Loveleen also around, and Sujit and Eklavya, and of course, Sachin was here. We know KJ Joy sir has sent his greetings. All the authors, and big congratulations to Philip and Ruchi for this. I know we were nervous about this session, but I think being a little nervous is nice for the session as well. Which is a good time also to announce what is cooking or brewing at W4W. Today, we also close our season 7 of the conversation series, and it is also a good moment for me to share with all of you that we have actually now crossed 400 sessions, nearing 450 sessions, having nearly 700 speakers spoken on our platform, with touching nearly 7,000 of our participants who have reached us directly or indirectly through YouTube. And it's really a privilege not only to listen to all of you, it has been a learning, a master class for me. But as you rightly mentioned, Ruchi, I would also reinstate that water has a connective capacity. It's not only through the edited volumes we see that it has a connective capacity. We are experiencing it We are actually also in April 5 years old with these 450 sessions. We would like to really invite as many as of you who are interested in water, who are concerned about water, to join us in our season 8. We are reshaping with a very young youth club at W4W who wants to do something new. They think that this is something, more like a institutional way of doing it, more educational. So they are trying to bring new energy and new ways. Having said that, we will also continue some of the sessions like this. But I'm very happy that the youth club of the W4W is trying to take charge and bring new ways to look at things, because we have to have more young people. So if you are interested, please write to us at hello-w4w @gmail.com. And if you would like to see our past sessions, all are open access education at www.w4w.in. We still don't know when do we start our season 8, but most likely from 3rd of June, because we have again a power-packed session with 5 WICCI Water Resource Council women, new presidents and vice presidents. They come and they interact with me about their plans for next 2 years. So that's a good call also for Divya. If you are interested to talk about Women and Water, Divya Chopra, that we start on 3rd of June with our WICCI Water Resource Council president and vice president. And that's the first, I think, session we will have for season 8. And things will flow as we have been flowing for 5 years. Thanks all the speakers, all the participants, all my team members for the 450 sessions nearly. We could not have made it and done it if there were all of you not connecting with us and supporting us. Please take care of yourself, and we see each other soon. It's time for us to take a short break and clear all our backlog works. Thanks all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.